Karen the Warp Spinster here, along with Emily, my iron. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I am going to be trying out something that's been in my head for a while, and I think it's time to bring it out and see if it's going to make any sense and it's going to do what my brain thinks it's going to do. So I have some 2.5-inch squares. I'm still working on stash and scraps here, and then I have my box of half square triangles that I have done from various projects, mostly folding back the corners. And then I also have a few scraps here that I think I might use in it, not sure yet, but I'm going to start out doing a couple of things, and you see if you end up seeing what I'm seeing in my brain. I don't know. I want to start laying some of these 2.5-inch squares out. I think I'm going to start with solid colors to begin with. I'm not sure this green mat is exactly the best choice, but going to go with it for now. And that's good to start. Now this is just a basic bit of it. It will no doubt change and adapt here. And you're probably figuring out already what I'm doing here. Emily's guessed now. And the plan is to make a sort of village, and this is just a basic idea of it. There are going to be many changes in it before I get to the end. And lots of decisions to be made, which is what I do in front of you all every week. We may not agree on the decisions, but we find it interesting to make the decisions, right? Just so you know me, I'm having a stripe crisis, where everything I do, I want to have stripes involved. So here's a basic of my village. Different colored houses, but they're all the same size and shape. Roofs are different colors, different shapes, and my stripe mania is in there at the moment. May not stay there. But this would be fine, actually. I wouldn't mind doing a quilt that looks like this and then have different ones coming down the hill and up the hill. But I want to have more fun with it because that's what we're here for. So I would like to make these different sizes, shapes, widths, well, maybe not shapes, kind of shapes. And just as a sort of audition for that, a while back I did, when I was doing other 2.5-inch square things, I did these inserts. So that would make it, actually this is still 2.5 inches square because that was cut 1-inch inserts. So the seams made up for it, and now we're still at 2.5 inches. But it's going to look a little wild with that striped roof. But that adds a little more something to it, and I always like to have details for the eye to follow around and to find new things when it goes to a different part of the quilt. So I could do things like that and still have the squares. Let's put this guy up here. Although that's an every other kind of alternating plain and striped, and that's a little too symmetrical for me for this, but just auditioning the kind of thing that I could do. I could also add, say, another piece on. Let's find something. Let's try an orange here, and that wouldn't have to match up like this. But say I made this, added a piece on there and made that house a little wider. And I could actually make a house a little narrower. So say we took this one and folded it and just made a little narrow shotgun kind of house next door. Or, and this is what I really want to kind of aim for, I think, is just have burrows, kind of the Weasley's house from Harry Potter. Just have a burrows kind of willy-nilly put together, put on addition as you need it, hanging off from the side, doing all sorts of things. So I think that would be a lot of fun to do for some of them. Or you could do chimneys on them. Could just have a lot of fun with scraps, but starting with the 2.5-inch square and these half square triangles. I also have some pieces from what I was cutting yesterday for another project, and it could be a funky kind of roof as well. It doesn't show up so well with the yellow against it, but I think just something more hut-like would be kind of fun too. So that's where I'm planning to go with this. When I do inserts, I wouldn't mind some of them being wider so that I end up with something that's wider, or in fact taller than a 2.5-inch square. Or you could have a first floor, second floor. Let's see if we do a couple of solids here. It's just going to, I think, be fun to put these together, and uses up some of my 2.5-inch square stash. Oh, this one's kind of fun. This one has a ramp. That's a lot of fun. So I did make these in order to do just a separate quilt that has these all in various positions, and I still want to do that. But that's a good way to audition. Doesn't mean I can't use these in this quilt as well. Now, of course, construction comes into play here, and some of it is going to end up being applique, if not all of it, depending on how the shapes turn out. Unless I want to do really pickier sort of piecing than I want to do. I want this to overlap here and to, cut that and arrange it. It isn't going to be the fun I want this to be, so I'm probably going to be doing a reasonable amount of applique. Now, there's nothing that says I can't do a seam here and then finish it out with applique down here. I could also sew in a strip down here, pretend this is white. Sew a strip down there so that these are on an equal footing, shall we say, down here. Well, that's kind of fun actually that way, isn't it? So lots of ways I can put this together, but for today, I think I just want to start making some of these houses and deciding on maybe some rooftops for them. So that's what I'm going to be about. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to start, I think, with just solid 2.5-inch squares. I have a lot of those because I work in those a lot. Oh, that's kind of a cool one. That's a nice idea. So, and I've got quite a few of those solid 2.5-inch squares. So that's what I'm going to start with. Emily's making lots of comments today. So. I want to insert something in here. Could be a curve. Just saying. In fact, that's going to make them narrower. So let's do this. I'm going to sew 2 pieces together here and then do another pair. Oh, let's do the opposite. I don't know how this is going to look, but sort of the opposite. I don't know if I have another of that lighter orange. I don't think I do. And then another lime green here. So I'm going to sew these 2 sets, and then I'm going to do a curve in there. I have pressed these seams open, and I have decided at this, I seldom do backstitch at the end of seams because there's usually going to be a seam crossing over it to lock it. But because these will likely end up at least partly appliqued, and I'm going to be moving them around a lot, I wanted to keep that from pulling back. All right, now I am going to layer these on top of each other, and I'm going to cut a curve. See how this goes. And I have pressed these open because if I match up seams anywhere, I'm not going to know which way I want to have pressed them, so I press them open. And let me think about this. If I do a curve like this, I'm going to have a really skinny bit over here, wider bit here. We're going to, well, all right, we're just going to put them on top of each other, and this way I'll be able to have 2 different pieces. Now, this is 2 layers, which means it's going to shift quite a bit when I cut. I'm going to make sure my fingers are out of the way, or I'm wearing a klutz glove. I don't have my klutz glove handy, so I'm just going to take it slowly. Make sure my fingers are out of the way. This is not going to be a perfectly matching, the curves will match, but because I didn't put a seam allowance in, that is, the seam isn't accounted for, it's going to not end up to be a nice rectangle in the end. But that's all right, we'll trim it down. I kind of like that idea. I kind of like this idea even if I weren't doing it for a village. Okay, so I'm just going to offset that a little bit. If I flip it over, then I'm going to have a little tail there, and I'm just free-forming this, free-form sewing it. I'm not pinning it. You may, of course, if you like, but then I'm just going to gently ease this over. I have an S curve, which means I have a convex curve, which is what I usually like to have on top when I do a curve, but then I have a concave. So I can either just continue with that, being careful and slow, and just lifting it over, not tugging on it, or I can do this first half, then flip it over and do the other half. Let me explain what I'm doing here. I did this first curve, which was the convex, and now I want to do the convex again because this is a steep enough curve that I decided I wanted to have the concave here. It's just easier to work with, for me anyway. And because I flipped it over, and because I'm going to be going from this end up to here, I want to make sure that's going to meet without things getting shoved forward. I want it to meet in the proper place, so I did pin it. I am working with needle down position on my machine and taking it very slowly so I can just stop and kind of move things without feeling rushed to get the fabric in the right place before it hits the needle. And I'm making sure that when I'm looking at the 1/4 inch mark that I have, whether it's edge of my presser foot or a 1/4 inch guide, that I'm measuring that, and I'm watching at the needle, where the needle puts in, not at the end of my presser foot. So I'm watching where the needle enters the fabric. I have my positive negative tall houses. Now I have pressed the curved seams open as well. These do not meet in the center. I could have arranged for them to, but it doesn't matter. I don't need them to here. And there are limits to what we can do because we didn't allow for a seam allowance because we're doing this freeform curves. To trim that thread before it drives me over the edge. All right, so these can be a tall house and can have a roof of who knows what color, probably not that one. We could have a really fun house. I should have done one of these for Alice. That would have been fun. And then we could do a different house. We could have a little pool house off to the side. I think I want some that have really fun bases or houses, and then maybe some plainer houses with fun roof lines. And I'm going to just make a bunch of them, hope that, well, I'll just trust that they're going to somehow fit together, go together. They will in the end, because with scrappy things, it just goes together. Eventually, it will go together. Now, if I take just, say, a single one of these, and I want to insert something into it, could be another, what am I trying to say? This is me trying to talk and think at the same time. Could be another solid, could be white, could be a stripe. I'm going to do a stripe. I mean, you know I'm in this stripe mania at the moment. I'm just going to see what it looks like. If it's awful, then I can not do it. Take it apart. Now I could do, again, make this a straight strip, trim that off, or I could try, oh, wouldn't that be fun? All right, here's what we'll do. First of all, we're going to cut, I'm also into curves and stripes today. If you aren't interested in either, this is probably not the video for you. So I will cut that curve, and then I'm going to insert this in the middle. This will have to be trimmed straight, or sort of ish straight. You do it straight. It would also be kind of fun to do that in a crooked fashion, but we'll save that for another piece. We're going to insert that curve in there. Decided you might be able to see this better if I had it on some white paper. So here is our curved piece in there. So we could do a roof like that. We could turn it over and do it like that. Or, of course, we could do that. I like any one of those, honestly. Here I've got a little piece left over, could be a chimney. So a couple of ideas for houses. Now let's do one without stripes. I'm sure there are some of you who are wishing I wasn't doing the whole stripe thing. So what do I have in, here's a dark blue piece. I think I'm going to maybe split this in half. Well, I'll split both of these in half, or this one not quite in half. I want to offset it. Split this in half, and I can, or maybe neither of them in half. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put these two together, cut them at the same place, but use the different pieces in different ways. So I need to make sure that I'm giving myself enough for the 1/4 inch seam on either side of that. And now I'm going to insert this narrower piece in there, and I'll save this for another one. So just pretty simple sewing across here. This one ended up being a little bit not straight over here. I think I'm okay with that. I can always straighten it if I want to. So now I could leave this as is, or I could add on another piece and maybe have it have just a narrow blue off to the side here. And make another tall house. I think I might do that, see how that works. Now I want to stitch these together. I may not want them to be equal. It would make it the same height as these, which there isn't anything wrong with that, but I'm trying to vary things. So if I were to sew it here, and I probably will end up straightening this edge, then I have so little here for the seam allowance. This would be a very tiny slice over here. And I want it to be small, but I'm not sure I want it to be that small, so I'm going to shift it over a little bit, stitch this seam, and then I'll trim. And this is just kind of a random placement on here. This can be another stripe that will be inserted somewhere else. Emily is especially chatty today, so I've moved her away a bit. I will ask her opinions later. As I was getting ready to trim this, I had second thoughts about that. Maybe I want them to be uneven here. So maybe the top floor, or I don't know, a dormer, or who knows. A smaller top floor, or I could have, it's gonna look kind of a little bit Swiss chalet-y here, and then might have to find a larger half square triangle to put up there, or a different color, or maybe two of them. Ooh, that would be interesting. What if we did like a double roof across there? That would be sort of interesting. So this, it would be as if this, make sure I'm in frame here, this were one sort of house bit, and then this was another level. So that would get trimmed off. That might be kind of interesting. Looks like an 16th or 17th century building in England somewhere with overhang there. That would be kind of fun. I kind of like that. That's fun. And you know, if I kind of like it, it's probably going to stay. So that's fun. As I'm doing these, I'm chuckling because I'm a big fan of the different colored doors in Dublin. Big fan of Dublin anyway. And I have a lavender colored door on my house, which I'm thinking about darkening to a nice purple. And I've been trying to encourage my neighbors to have bright colored doors, and not very many people are going for it. And so I'm overcompensating and doing really bright everything houses. Now I have this piece, which I could insert into something else. What do I not have? I pretty much have most of the colors. We've got the pink and the teal and the orange. And if I stay with the solids, when I have the stripes, right? I could add it on to a print version. Maybe. Maybe not. I need to get some different colors of squares maybe, or just do it with a limited palette, but I really want some bright houses in this village. I think I'm going to go down and see if I have some more colors of squares. Here's a purple, or sort of purple. There's a pink, which I'm not sure I'm thrilled with that up against that color. Let me go explore my stash downstairs a bit. I'm having to wait for planes to go overhead here. A lot of them this morning. They must be using the runway that takes them over my house. Now, I did find some more. I love purple, so I knew there had to be some purple somewhere. I've got some gold, some more of a little, that's basically the same. And then I thought, you know, I could have a goth house. So I have a black square here. How would purple look with these? Come to me, purple square. It's kind of too somber for me. I needed to brighten that up, so maybe I need to brighten this up with that. And I could go either way, up, down, inside, out. I could do it between two. Trying to remember where frame is. Sorry if I'm not getting it centered all the time. I could put it between two of the same color, or I could do that. I think I will do that. We'll make that a little more colorful, and I may end up cutting off some of the top and or bottom of that. So here's another base for a house, but you probably knew this was coming. Do we want to split and shift there? And then I can even up the top and bottom if I want to. I think I'm going to try that. If it doesn't work, oh well. Now, the thing is, I've got this in the center. If I cut it here, I'm going to lose all of that blue. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Here I will have just a 1/4 inch of this side. So no, I'm not going to do it with this one. I will figure out something else to do with that because I don't want to lose that blue strip in the middle. I always have to be thinking about the seams when you're slicing. And then this needs something else. I don't know what, but it needs something else. Possibly a roof. Well, definitely a roof, but possibly something more than that too. We may as well try to start kind of building this village while we've got it here. Flip that around. Give him a blue roof up here. They don't have to be right next to each other, but they may be that way for now. And as you're looking at them from across the way, they may seem to overlap. Those villages that you see on hillsides in Italy and Greece would be kind of fun. I'm liking this. I think it's actually turning out better so far than it was in my head. And then of course we have this other piece we can put over here somewhere. I don't want to lose that overhang though. And I'm getting a lot of green in here, aren't I? Which actually I like green, so I'm not sure I'm sorry about that. That is too close to that. What if we did this funky yellow roof here? I'm gonna have to press that a little bit. Nope, I don't want to lose that overhang, so this needs to move over. I think this is a fun village. Now, what else might we do here? We have to do something purple. We must do something purple. I don't know what. Let's do something that's purple and teal. Or purple and gold. Let's go with teal. This may not be how I'm going to arrange them in the end, but I'm looking at balance right now and it's just not balanced. So I want to do something with this. I could do a double strip kind of thing in here. Do I have enough room? Sure, I'll make enough room. I'm going to cut this over to the side, just cut a couple of strips out of here to insert. Probably off frame, but I just want to leave that village as it is at the moment. And then cut this purple piece in 2 different pieces too. These are going to be pretty narrow strips in there. Okay by me. I don't plan to shift these, I don't think, amazingly enough. I decided that rather than having what was turning out to be an almost an even stripe going on that, I wanted to have more purple. I have 2 of these strips left over to insert in another place. And what I'm wanting to do, of course, is shift all of that. You can't be surprised by that notion. This is, what if we do an orange roof here, which may kind of not go so well with that one, but now another thing I want to do is shift that a little bit. You knew that. I think so, because I've got this going on and the others are pretty straight lines because I've got that curve. So I'm going to try splitting it. I've got lots of squares. Goodness knows I have lots of squares. So I'm just going to slice it. Do I want to slice it even or straight up and down, or do I want to angle it a bit? I think I'm going to do it vertically this time and see what happens. I opted, instead of sliding it, to flip one of the sides. So now we have another nice tall building to add into the mix. More things may be happening at some point with these, but at least we're getting some variety in color and style and size and height. What did I do with this one? I actually had this one further up and that one lower, because of course this is going to be the layout we use in the end, huh? So I am pretty happy with this at this point. This is looking a little funky down here, I have to say, but that looks pretty together up there. And this one is a little dark, isn't it? Because I have these deep colors down here and I want something brighter. So this may end up going, say, over here. And let me shift these over. And I need something brighter over here. I think something teal. and I don't think teal, and there's an awful lot of green going on. So I don't know that I want green. Did I decide these were going to be overlapping? I don't remember. Just trying to get a feel. No, I don't think so. One point I did. I don't think so. There. Boy, Emily is really chatting today. At this point, I could probably let her rest. Oh, I think this one has to be on top of that. Now, something better down here. How about a teal? Somewhere I have a teal. And there's gold right there, but I think I want to add another gold in here because that will brighten it up considerably. I just have to decide what I want to do. This may be one where I do a diagonal shift. So I will sew these two together and then we'll shift it. It may not end up being that long, but we will do a shift. And I've just noticed these are the colors of the Ukrainian flag. This is basically a narrow Ukrainian flag. So I'm thinking about everyone in Ukraine and everyone who, all of us are impacted by what's happening. Now and that makes me believe I don't want to do a shift on here, a split and shift. So we'll save this for something else. And let's do still do a teal, different teal here, and a green. I think I'll put the green down. Now, I need another gold. Let me go see if I can rummage up another gold. It really needs to be gold. I'm sure you all were calling out to me and I just wasn't paying attention that I was headed in the same direction. If I added a gold to that, again, I would have the Ukrainian flag, which is not a bad thing. I just don't want to fracture it. So I found a different green, a brighter green that I think might be kind of fun. And a little bit brighter orange. Still a little dark, but I think would be okay. And then I could do maybe a teal roof or something. And I also, well, that's going to be probably a roof. So there's green and orange over here already. So if we do, and we've got a green and gold up there, what if I do a gold and, again, that hot pink is going to need something brighter there. How about the teal? Isn't it an especially bright teal, is it? But let's try for it. And then we will, I did it again, honestly. I need to put that aside. I've just got it in my mind, I guess, always on my mind. Definitely need some brightness down here. So I am going to go with this. Yeah, that's just, teal isn't as bright. So I'm going to do this. This is probably not as many houses as I'm going to make, so this may not be the same arrangement. Gives me a chance to think about the balance, though. Now I'm going to take this piece and slice it diagonally and slide it. Maybe flip it, but I think slide it. Do I want to do that? Oh, that would be a fun house, wouldn't it? We're getting into the wonky checkerboard things, but wouldn't that be a fun house? Oh. Now I did bring up a piece that isn't quite square, this pink color, and I'm going to make a couple of triangles out of it, and they won't be perfect right angle triangles, but that may be perfect for this house, which is, oh, okay. Now I may shift this down so it's not lined up there. That's sort of starting into, all right, I'll be making some of those. Definitely will be making some of those, but let's see how this looks. Oops. I just do a slide on it. It's not nearly as much fun. Fits the rest of the neighborhood. It's part of the HMO. It just lacks something. It's not, well, it's not like the other houses have really crazy things, except maybe these with the curves in them. I'm going to ponder it, honestly. I may change my mind, so what if we have a teal roof, though? I don't know that this roof is, this teal piece is going to be wide enough, but, well, once we got a seam on there, it would be wide enough. I've got squares. Let me go ahead and just slide this and trim it up and see how that teal roof looks. We are shifted and trimmed the top and bottom. And now we're going to need something that separates it from that. And I think that's where that piece will come in. And this is actually going further down. I'm arranging this as if it's going to be that way in the end. That's kind of a fun little village so far. It will get funner as we start adding things to it. And I can see that I'm going to be doing maybe some piecing, but undoubtedly some applique as well. That is it for today, I think. I wonder if I should, she says as she moves on, maybe put that up there instead, and that will tie this in a little better. This may end up being arranged this way at the rate I'm going. All right, that is almost it. I'm obviously going to continue to play with this, but I think that will be, all right, that's it for now. This is our village under construction, or in the planning stages. And next week we will pick up, I don't know if it will be figuring out how we're going to piece all of this, piece or applique all of this together, or if we'll do a few more funky wonky things. But that's for next week. On Wednesday, I think, I know, but I think I'm going to revisit Alice. There were some comments that I agreed with, actually, that it was kind of busy. And I sort of thought that as I was doing it, but then as I was editing the video, I could really see it from further back, I guess, and there were things that I just didn't like. And I also noticed that there was a point in the middle where I had removed something that as I was watching the film, I decided, oh, I like that after all, and then would redo the other half. So anyway, I think Alice will be unwrapped again on Wednesday, and I shall do some more with that. I hope to see you then and on Sunday. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace.